Hi there. So my name is Benoit Trudel, and I would like to do this video on what it's like to stay in a monastery, mainly the Theravada monasteries, which is where I've stayed in, I think, 6 or 7 different places. And this could be of interest to you if you just want to know what my life has been like and why I've decided to ordain as a monk. So that's more for family and friends. But if you're also interested in Buddhism and you would like to take some time out from your daily life and stay in a monastery and you're wondering what that's like, well, that could be of interest to you. So obviously I cannot speak for other types of monasteries, for example, Tibetans and other, because I have not been. So it's going to be about Theravada. So the first thing I think we think that monasteries maybe are very, very quiet places, or that there's nothing to do, or that we'll be bored. And actually in the monasteries where I've been, most of them, they're actually quite busy because there is a schedule that you need to follow. And so the schedule will vary from one place to the other, but typically you would get up around 3:30 for some chanting in some places. Some places it's 4, some places it's 5. So you would start with chanting. Some places you would have meditation after the chanting, maybe chanting for about 30 minutes, sometimes more, and then meditation for sometimes 20, 30, or 1 hour, depending. And in some places, you will actually start to do some chores quite early in the morning at 5 a.m. This is the case with Wat Pa Nanachat. And other places, you would get ready to go for Pindapat. So it really depends on the place. So just to give you, before going maybe a bit more in detail, some of the places where I've been is Wat Pa Nanachat, which is in Thailand. So this one is quite well known. It was set up 50 years ago to train foreigners who want to become a monk. So it's in English, and so it's been around for a very long time. Wat Pa Nanachat has about 30 monks or so it's quite big. It's a very busy place. The other place I went to is Wat Bun Lom, which is very small. It's about maybe 30 minutes from Wat Pa Nanachat. So at the time, there was only about 5 monks there. I went also to Bunya Wad, which is in Chonburi, at Dan Monastery. This one has about, also quite big, maybe about 30, 40 monks. And that changes throughout the year, or during the Vasa or after Vasa, and Vasa being the rains retreat during the summer. The other one is Wat Mapjan, and Mapjan is also in Chonburi, close to Pattaya. And so that one's about the same size, I would say about, I think, 40 monks. I also just recently stayed at SBS, which is Sasanaraka Buddhist Sanctuary. And this one is in Malaysia, in Taiping. And the other two that I would add to this one is Tisarana Buddhist Monastery, which is in Ontario, south of Ottawa. So that has about, I think, 6 monks. And I stayed at a hermitage, which is in Thunder Bay, Ontario. And that one's very small. At the time when I was there, there's one monk who's been there since for many years. And there was a visiting monk from USA who was planning on staying for quite some time. And there was a nun as well who was staying there. So 3 people. So in that place, maybe I'll start with that one. There is not much of a schedule, except that we would start with early quick chanting and meditation, and then the steward and lay people would prepare the meal, and then we would come back together at 10:30, and then we would have the meal, and then that would be the only thing, planned activity for the day. So coming back to backtracking where I was, so some places you go on Pindapat, and Pindapat is going out on alms round, which is really quite nice. I mean, it's for all of us who don't have that as an experience or part of our culture. To go on Pindapat is when the monks will go on the street, and then they go at the crack of dawn, so around 6:30-ish. And then they will go from house to house normally, and then the people of the village, they will put food in the alms bowl. And so so all the monks, they're just, you just walk basically in a line, you get to the first house, and then they will put like a little bit of rice or different things, and then you go to the next house. it is a little bit like trick or treat in that sense that you go from house to house. So it's quite humbling because you see people just giving a little bit of rice to each monk, and at the same time, some when you get back to the monastery, then they take all of the food, then they will sort it out into different categories, because you'll have fruits, you'll have rice, you'll have cooked dishes that they put in plastic bags, you'll have drinks, you'll have desserts, and so they separate all of that and they put that on the table. So places where we went on Pindapat was Nanachat and Bunlom. Bunyawat and Mapjan, we didn't go on Pindapat, so only the monks went. And for Nanachat and Bunlom, when the lay people go, the role is to basically take the surplus, because the bowl is actually quite small. So when they put food, it gets filled quite quickly, especially in places that are quite famous like Nanachat. And so the lay people, they take the food from the bowl and then they put it in big bags as we carry. And Nanachat, there would be a van that would follow, and then when the bag of the lay people gets full, then we put that in a big basket that goes in the van. And actually, SBS is a bit of a mix. Before I get to SBS, so also at the monasteries, they will have lay people that will come and bring different dishes. They will also cook food on site, because quite often the food from the alms round is very limited in variety, mainly rice. And so then they cook like vegetable dishes and different things like that. So also at Bunlom, then they cook food. At SBS, it's a bit of a mix. That when we go on alms round, some of the monks, they go in the village on different individual alms route, but most of the monks, they will go to meditation center where the lay people will prepare the food for the monks, and then they put the food in their bowls, and then they go back to the monastery where they eat. Bunyawad and Mapchan, as I said, the monks take the food and then it's taken back to the monastery, and then they also cook additional food there. So Pindapat is really, really interesting, very humbling. And actually, when you're in Thailand, now I'm staying in a guest house, and I go out on the street and I actually get some food, and at about 6:45, the monks from the different nearby monasteries, they walk by, and then I give alms to the monks, and I find that also very humbling to do that. So today was mangosteen. Yesterday I bought some peanut packets, and I had a little bit of instant coffee and cakes, and so you can vary also what you give. And so I gave to about 20 monks, and that's what I've done every day this week. So that's Pindapat. Regarding the food and eating at the monastery, so the Buddha laid out that monks and monastics and lay people who stay at the monastery should eat only before noon, right? So some places you can eat, they will eat at 8 or 9 o'clock. That's the case for Mapjan, Nanachat, Bunlom. Excuse me. So some places will have 2 meals per day. So Tisarana was like that. Arrow River Hermitage was just 1 meal. So it really depends. And so basically afternoon, you don't eat any solid food. In some places you can have juice, tea. You're even allowed to have black chocolate, imagine, sugar, but not solid food, right? So at first it could be a little bit scary if some people are used to eating big meals, especially that we tend in the West to eat dinner as the big meal. But I found that with most people, with some exceptions still, you get used to it. You really do. And it's actually, if you do end up after that eating a dinner, you do find that you're, oh my God, I'm so full, and it's not ideal to eat a big meal before going to bed. So that's for the food. The schedule now, I had started to mention that, so at 8 or 9 o'clock, or well, actually at 7 you go for Pindapat, 8 or 9 you eat, and then after you're done eating, then there's some chores. So either for lay people, either washing the dishes or sweeping or cleaning the toilets, it depends. And then the tasks are are divided between the monastics and the lay people, right? And so normally you'd be doing chores from about, I don't know, about 10:30, 11 until about 12, 1 o'clock, depending on the place. And then you have a few hours of free time. And then normally you would start again with some chores in the afternoon, either at 3 or at 4 o'clock for an hour or so. At 5:30, we have pana, which is when you take a tea break, basically. Some places they offer juice or soft drinks. And then you have a short evening program. Some places will have chanting and then meditation. That was the case at Mapjan. At Bunyawad, it was only meditation in the evening for 1 hour. Bunlom, it was chanting and meditation. And SBS, it's meditation. So that gives you just a bit of an idea. So when I was at Arrow River Hermitage, I met a monk who said he ran away, quote unquote, from the monastery because he felt like the schedule was so busy all the time that he didn't have enough time to meditate. And so at the Hermitage, he felt, and then he also was more free with his schedule. Because keep in mind, on top of the schedule I mentioned, you still also need to do your laundry, clean the kuti, and there's different things that you need to do. So it does get busy. As far as just a question that I have, some people might think that being a monk is a way to avoid the real life in the real world. So I wonder if you have some thoughts about that. Right? So do you think that when you withdraw into a monastery, are you avoiding real life? Okay, so initially it might seem like it because you're just fed up with life, fed up with the job, fed up with the family, and you just, oh, I just want to get away. And so you get away, right? And so initially, physically, it does look like that. But I think ultimately you're not really running away in the sense that as soon as you find yourself alone, what happens? Emotions come up, thoughts come up, and that's what Buddhism is about. It's about having some quiet time so that you let things come up and you start to observe your body, contractions in the body. If you're trying to meditate, you observe your thoughts, because you cannot stop your thoughts, but you can observe them, you can acknowledge them, you can acknowledge sensation, pain, emotions, and by acknowledging them, it gives them, allows them to be, which is not comfortable, and it allows them to then be released or transformed into something different, something else. So it's actually quite uncomfortable, or it can be for most people, to be in a monastery where you don't have the usual distractions of your phone or TV or grabbing a bite to eat or calling a friend and having all of the distractions that we do so automatically that basically keeps us from being in tune with what's going on with ourselves. So speaking of which, when you're in a monastery, in most places you don't have, you're not allowed to keep your phone, you're not allowed to have internet. So Nana Chat definitely is the case. Bunlon, no, you were allowed to keep your phone. And when I was at Bunyawad, yep, I had my phone, they didn't take it. And also at Mapchan, I had my phone. Yeah, but most places really they will take it. I'm not sure. I think because I was there for a really short time, not sure why, but most places you're not allowed. And so that's that. So comfort and conditions. Well, there's a news flash for this one, because once one of the precept is not to sleep on a high and luxurious bed, and so at Nanachat you sleep on the floor. So it's a wooden floor, and they put a very thin plastic kind of weaved mat, but I mean there's no cushion to it. It's just a plastic weaved mat. So it's very thin, and so at first when you sleep on that, I mean, your shoulders become numb, like your whole body becomes numb, and then you try to turn, and then everything is numb all over, and you cannot feel your body anymore. So it does take a while to get used to it. you sort of get used to it and you sort of don't as well, because it still remains uncomfortable. And that's part of the Buddha's teaching, to say, well, sleep less, eat less, and meditate more, right? So if you have a bed that's too comfortable, your tendency will be to sleep for a really long time. But I can assure you, if you're sleeping on the floor, you won't be over sleeping in and sleeping for like 10 hours. Your body just can't take it. After a while, it's just too uncomfortable. So that's that. There's some places which, for me, I think it really makes a difference, where you either have electricity or you don't. So the difference that it makes is maybe you find that romantic to have candles. Um, I find it can be a bit difficult. Also, in the middle of the night, you wake up, you want to go to the toilet, things like that. Or some of these candles are cheap and they burn really quickly. But it's also, especially because of the heat. Thailand and all of these countries, it really does get up to 32, 34. And when it's that hot, and it can be really hot at night as well, a fan is not super luxurious, but it does help to bear the heat, right? It's still moving around warm air, but it's better than not having anything. So Nanachat, there's no electricity. At Bunlom there was. At Bunyawad there was definitely no electricity. Mapjan there was, and SPS there is. Sasana, and also at Tisarana there was. And at Arrow River there was no electricity. So now what about meditation? So meditation in most places, it's left up to you. I've seen a lot of lay people that don't meditate. It looks like a social club. They're just chit-chatting all afternoon. Whenever they have free time, they either chit-chat or they sleep. And that's just what I noticed. And I didn't see many people, in the hall meditating. And so it's up to you whether you meditate or not. It's not meant to be places where someone will teach you how to meditate. And they do say for Nanachat, you're meant to have previous meditation experience. And so if you go to a monastery, it really helps to have done meditation at home or in different places and have some experience, so that you actually have some techniques that you can use, so that you don't expect, people will teach you to meditate. So that's that. There are some places that have also allocated time for group meditation. For example, Bunyawad was like that. Majan was like that, morning and evening. And also a little bit Nanachat, a little bit. So that's for that. Discussion with monks, that could be interesting for you if you want to know what it's like to live the monastic life, and if you have questions about the teachings of the Buddha. And to be honest, the monks and the lay people are mainly kept a little bit separate, because the monks are really there, to practice normally. And for lay people, it's considered maybe a bit less serious, and so they're kept separate. Nanachat, we're rarely together. We can sometimes see each other a little bit. Mapchan, it's the same everywhere. And so if you do want to speak with a monk, you can. So you request to someone, sometimes, not sometimes, in all places they have what's called the guest monk. And so he's responsible for all of the lay people that come and visit. So if you have any request, anything, you go to the guest monk. And so I did that because at the time I was really exploring whether or not I wanted to ordain. And so for me, it was very important to speak to some of the monks and get their perspective. Why did they ordain? How did it go for them? What's difficult? What are some challenges? Etc. And so in all places, whether it was at Nanachat, I talked to some monks in private discussions. Bunlon, I didn't, because again, there was not many monks there. But definitely at Bunyawad, I had a few discussions. Also the same with Mapjan, and also at Tisarana when I was in Canada, in Ontario, I did talk to some monks. So having done all of that and having stayed in a monastery, then I was really able to see, okay, which place is more suitable for me to ordain as a monk. And I was really looking for places where you get the monastic training, as we call it, is really very supportive, so that I can learn about the Buddha's teaching, I can learn about the precepts, how to apply them, the 227 rules, I can have enough time to meditate, etc. And so at the end of my time last year, I felt it was Mapjan for me that was most appropriate. There's a good international or expat community there, so then it would be possible to exchange with other monks, even though it's mainly it's in Thai, right? And Bunyawad is even more Thai, because the monks are Thai, but also the head monk is also Thai. So that is about the gist. If you are thinking about or interested to stay in a monastery for whatever reason, then you do need to email them quite a bit in advance, because it is quite popular. They do have waiting lists, and they have a limited number of either rooms or kutis where lay people can stay. So write to them with dates and duration, and then and see how it goes. But I definitely recommend it if you want to have some time out, time to practice, time to meditate, and if you think that monastic life could be interesting for you. Right. So on this note, I leave you. Thank you for listening if you've made it this far. Ciao.